Working Perspectives podcast presents Ask AI.
The Working Perspectives podcast has passed 1 million views on our YouTube channel. This is the most open AI has been with us, you know?
Yeah, and it really made sense. Like,
we should start asking AI to do roleplay more. Is the cancel culture a stubborn asshole, Bern? Is cancel culture a stubborn asshole?
You know what? I will say yes.
I would do the dishes all day, every day, if I got paid in beaches. You know what I'm saying?
I would dismantle the dishwasher. I would throw it away. I would find a way to stab it and be like, sorry, dishwasher's broken. It's all by hand from here on out.
Yep. Everyone's me doing a lot of handwork right now. Yeah, baby.
Enjoy the show. Working Perspectives podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Working Perspectives podcast presents Ask AI. I'm Matt Lavelle, accompanied by the one and only Bern Podcasty. On this show, we'll be asking AI the hard-hitting questions and then debating on if AI truly has all the answers. There's no question too crazy, no inquiry too outrageous, and no query too queer. AI may have all the answers, but we are here to prove that you can't have great answers without great questions. Tonight's question is, what's the best way to deal with a stubborn asshole? Enjoy the show.
What's the best way to deal with a stubborn asshole?
All right, Bern, how are you, partner? Once again, I feel like I dumped my nuts all over that intro, daddy-o.
You crushed it, man. You crushed it. For everyone out there who doesn't know this too, if across the pantheon of Working Perspectives podcasts, Maddie does the intros and outros live every time. Even if they sound super consistent, I promise you they are 100% off the rip live every time. That's how goddamn talented he is.
Every time, daddy. That's how we do it. I learned from the best, my man. Thank you for that. But yeah, we are here to prove something. How to deal, or we're here to ask AI something. And that's something big. So, assholes come in all shapes and colors, all sizes, races, and doodads. I'll tell you, they could be big, they could be small, they could be old, they could be young, and they could be everything in between. But there are stubborn assholes all over this godforsaken earth of ours. Am I right or am I right?
You are 100% correct. And listen, the best way to deal with a stubborn asshole is not to deal with a stubborn asshole. It's just count your blessings, walk away, live to fight another day. But there are certain situations in this world, in this life, where dealing with a stubborn asshole cannot be avoided. I don't know if anybody out there has kids. They are incredibly stubborn assholes. I don't know if anybody has parents who are a little older, but wow, are they stubborn. You ever have a boss who was immovable? I bet you did. You can't just quit your job every time you bump into somebody who doesn't want to listen to reason or logic. So this is more like, obviously, if you can avoid a stubborn asshole, you will. But what do you do in those situations where you can't? You got to face them head on and you got to get something done.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, patience can only go so far, even with older, younger, or even someone of the same age. And it's when, I feel like we've talked about certain types of people on this show that have the stubborn asshole quality to them. You know what I mean? Like a know-it-all or an argumentative. They all fall under the stubborn asshole category. But you're right. But there is some people who are just ignorant to the fact that they're being a stubborn asshole because, one, they don't know any better because they're a little child, or they're set in their ways because they're an old asshole. You know what I mean? So there's everywhere in between. I'll tell you, there's awful places to find them. And I hate when it's like, I don't know. When it comes to kids, though, if you're dealing with a stubborn asshole that's a kid, that's not your own kid, that's hell on earth. Am I right or am I right?
It's impossible. It's impossible because I mean, at least with your own kid, you have some idea how to like, you know, negotiate, punish, threaten, cajole. You know, you have a bunch of moves in your bag. Not to say that your kid's going to listen to you all the time. I mean, that's just not how the world works. But at least you know some things that are successful. Other kids, I mean, listen, everybody loves their kids. Nobody likes anybody else's kids. I mean, until they're adults. That's understandable. You're not allowed to punt them. You're not allowed to punish them. It's always weird to go to another parent and be like, I think your kid's being kind of a stubborn asshole because no one wants to hear that. And most people don't react well, even if it's true. So, yeah, definitely delicate, difficult situations dealing
I'll
with
tell you
stubborn kids.
this, 90% of the time you find a stubborn asshole kid, they got a lazy shithead parent. You know what I mean? So I think those two go hand in hand.
Well, I think you make a good point is like where does the quality come from, right? Like where do kids learn how to be super stubborn? Now, some kids I think, it's a combination. Some kids are just born in the way they are. They don't like they're immovable.
Hmm.
Um I'll give you an example, right? My son, he had an ear infection a
Yeah,
couple years ago, like 2 years ago, like,
sure.
he's 5 years old or whatever, ear
Tough
infection.
stuff.
It's a bad ear infection. He's feeling lousy, he's sick. Also, he doesn't like the taste of the medicine, right? So we're having this conversation with him. We're just like, okay, well, just kind of like, hey, just shoot it down and chase it with some lemonade. You know what I mean? Like, whatever you want to chase it with, we don't care. Have some Coca Cola. Throw that down your gullet afterwards. Um, he's not budging, and now he's on the prowl. Right now, he's everything you give him. He's smelling it like he thinks he's about to be assassinated. You know what I mean? He's on the hunt for this medicine. Finally, he agrees to take the medicine. Hey, the medicine, it's not so bad. All right, great. What a world we live in. A couple days later, his other ear gets infected. Now we're back at the doctor's office. We can't understand what's happening. This kid's up in the middle of the night. He's yelling, he's screaming, he's crying. Medicine's not working. So we better give him some more medicine, different medicine. Go change some medicines. So about a month later, we move our couch and see the massive pink stain on the back of the wall. He never decided to take the medicine. He was just literally putting it in his mouth, giving us the thumbs up, and then turning around and spitting it behind the couch. So, like, how do you deal with someone who's like, your face is exploding, your ears are popping, everything hurts. If you just take your medicine, you'll feel better. And his response was, no.
Not only no, it was I'm gonna lie to you, manipulate you, and then hide the evidence. Honestly, in a way, you must have been furious, but in the back of your mind, you'd be like, all right, good for this kid got one over on us here. You know what I mean? Like any
I,
type of pride in that scenario, Burn.
yeah, sure. And then with the real pride comes in, like, okay, well, maybe he's learned a bit of a lesson. Like, because really, it was his eardrums that were exploding in his head,
True.
not mine.
Mm-mm.
Um, but like, that's just an example of like, how do you, I think what stubbornness comes down to for a lot of people is not being able to listen to logic or reason,
Right.
right?
Right. Right.
And with a 5-year-old, that's so I'll let that pass. You know what
Sure.
I mean?
Yeah.
It's frustrating because you need them to do certain things because you're responsible for them staying alive and being happy and
Yeah.
healthy and all of those things.
Oh yeah.
Um, but that kind of stubborn, I can give a little bit of a pass to because they're kids. All they know is
Right.
everyone's telling them what to do every time they
Right.
turn around, and every once in a while they just want to dig their heels in and be like, I don't know why, but I'm not going to do this.
Yeah. No, you're right. Honestly, like it's something too, like I'll see a lot, even with adults. Like if you have someone starting at your office, like they're new, and at first they're just like, yeah, they're yes man doing everything. But after a while, they've been told what to do for so long by so many people that they're so aggravated that they just want to be like, no, I can do something here. Just let me do it. So there is a part where it's like you need to be able to listen and not always just tell them what to do, like and listen for feedback and stuff. But there does come a point where they're just like, I'm fucking sick of listening. I'm sick of it. I'm doing what I want. Even if it's the wrong thing, I need to make a choice myself here, which I think that's inherent to, just human beings as a whole. Is that right?
I think so. I mean, no one wants to feel like they have no autonomy. No one wants to feel like none of their decisions matter and they're just there to, get
Yeah.
a robot to do it if that's all you want me to do.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, stubborn assholes exist everywhere. And what I'm interested to talk to AI about a little later on, once we kind of explore this a little bit, is like, are there techniques we
Hmm.
can use to kind of disarm someone? Like, for example, Maddie, we had a boss once upon a time. We won't need
Hmm.
to name any names, but like, if you wanted to get something done that was going to be for the benefit of the entire place,
Yeah.
you had to kind of make them think it was their idea. And if you could
Oh,
make them think it was their idea,
yep.
then you could get it done. So, this is a person who they're the boss and they know what's right and they don't want to hear anything from anyone else because even if it's a great idea, if they hear it from somebody else, it wasn't theirs, and
Yeah.
so it can't be viable. But if you could incept them somehow and cleverly make them think that it was their idea, then they do it. You wouldn't get any
Yep.
credit for it, but at least things would
No.
work more smoothly.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I know exactly who you're talking about and what you're talking about. But I honestly, I'll tell you, that makes me think of something when doing this show, right? And when you're in a creative space, there's a lot of opinionated things, right? You can go by data and stuff, but a lot of it you got to do sometimes like a gut instinct, or if we're being creative in a comedic space, you need to do what you think is funny, right? You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, it's your stuff going out there. And I remember, like, especially when we first started doing the show, there would be people be like, "Oh, you should do this, and you should do this, and why don't you do this and this and this?" And I'm like, "How many shows do you have and episodes have you put out, or any videos of any kind? Oh, none. Oh, then shut your mouth because you have no idea what you're talking about." But in a way, you can't say no to that stuff. Right? Like, you can't be on Mac. No, you can't be mad where good ideas come from. Someone told me that, right? And honestly, I've tried to keep that in my mind when doing something like being in a creative space. You can't be mad where good ideas come from. A good idea is a good idea, right? But like you're saying, if you're a stubborn asshole, you need to be the one that comes up with that good idea. One of the things I always found frustrating is when like I would be with someone and we'd be having like a creative ideas meeting and we come up with a good idea that maybe they started the conversation, but the idea came together, right? Like it
Hmm.
was both of us patching in, and they're like, they take credit for that idea, which maybe you had like the bones of something, or maybe an idea that we should do something like this, but the creative formula that's then put together was a team effort, and you can't take full credit for that. Nobody can, you know? Like that
I
was going
think
to come regardless.
I think what we just kind of roundabout did there is pointed out one of the most frustrating qualities of stubborn assholes is that they're bad collaborators.
Oh, the worst.
And
Has to
like
be
you
their
name
way.
me, yeah, and you name me a job I mean, unless you are literally working at your own company by yourself as a one man operation, there's no job that doesn't require some kind of cooperation and collaboration.
Do you think that
Um,
that type of stubborn asshole, like the type that is terrible at like, because there's some of those people that have made it to the highest level, right? And they are like stubborn asshole has to be their way, but then they've done a couple things okay, so then they get this like worship. You know what I mean? And like they're like sucking ideas off of people where it's like, oh, they're taking all these ideas from people and convincing themselves that they're their ideas, but they got them from somebody else to try and maintain this godlike status. You know what I mean? Like a perfect example is like Vince McMahon. Like he was one of those guys. Well, apparently he was one of those guys like had to be his way. Like there'd be people like telling him things like, no, this person is a baby face, this person's a baby face, and he's like, and then all of a sudden one day he'd be like, why do we have this person as a heel when they're an obvious baby face and I'm the only one that sees it? You know what I mean? Like perfect, perfect type of thing. But that's honestly, I don't know if that's for every creative space, but I hear you. but that does create some like sycophantic yes men that give this guy some hero god worship. You know what I mean? Which could create the worst stubborn asshole. You know?
Well, yeah. I mean, like it builds on itself. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, listen, anybody. There are very few people who have gotten to the top of. And let me just say this. Like, yes, there are people who have a very specific vision for something and are like, I am not going to waver from this. And it happens a
Yeah.
lot with creativity and a lot with art.
Yeah.
Of like, this is what I see, and everybody get your hands off this. And sure, that can work sometimes. But the
Mhm.
idea of someone building an entire career being successful without ever accepting help or admitting that they don't, aren't the best at something. Um, I don't know, man. Like there's very few and far between are those people who are actually successful. Now, that's like work stubborn, right? Where you're trying to
Mhm.
figure out how to get along with a boss or a coworker and
Yeah.
you're not necessarily we all have different jobs. Some we're passionate about, some we're not. Sometimes it's like, listen, man, I'm just trying to get in here. I'm trying to get my 8 hours in. There's no reason why this has to be a bad experience.
Right.
But like I'm not going to go home and cry in my, in my soup about it if I don't have the best day. Um that's like a little bit of an easier situation. You have the kid who won't take their medicine. That's like, dude,
That's the
I
word.
just take the goddamn medicine. Like it doesn't taste good. Like I know. And a lot of things in life aren't going to taste good. Like
Yeah.
and you're going to have to eat them. Just give me 3 seconds of being rational here.
Also, it's bubblegum
Um
flavored. It's not that bad, dude. You
it
know?
can't be that
They
bad.
make
It's not
they
that bad.
make kid medicine tolerable for this reason. All
Yeah.
right? It's bubblegum strawberry unicorn bullshit, okay? That's what it
Yeah.
is. That's the flavor. Honestly, it probably tastes better than the bullshit that we have to eat, you know?
Absolutely. And like, is it my favorite? No, it doesn't. It's not always going to be your favorite. All
Is
right.
it
Sometimes
Gushers?
it's going to
No,
just
it's
need to
not
be okay.
Gushers.
Oh, let's take that off the air though. Gushers, the medicine.
Is there a
I
Gushers
mean,
medicine?
they're not yet, but we should be. I mean,
Did we
right?
just come up with $1 trillion idea? Big
I,
Pharma, where are you?
where you at? Gushers
Gushers the
medicine.
medicine. Gushers medicine. We just saved the planet right there, Bern. No kid will ever be sick again. Or
Strep throat,
adult.
ear infections, gone.
Uh,
Gone.
Gaboosh, a couple. They'll be fiend. They'll be like, give me more.
What a world.
Well, I mean, maybe that'll
What a
get us
world
in
we
the
just
wrong
created.
direction. Moving on. Let's talk about, we talked about children that are stubborn assholes, right? But then let's talk about a different type of stubborn asshole, Bern. We talked about the boss. We talked about the child. Let's talk about the significant other.
Ooh.
Do we dare? Do we dare?
Spicy.
Do we dare?
I
I know you're
mean,
trying to patch things up, but do we
yeah,
dare?
no, hey, listen, man. Hey, listen, it's all is fair. Um,
You were
yeah, I
shout
mean
out
nothing.
Dan Cifelli, said Bern was a pretty smart guy. Shout out my neighbor Dan Cifelli, good guy. Cifelli Contracting, look him up, great stuff.
Shout out Dan. Thanks, man. Also,
Fan of the show, listener to the show.
yeah, speaking of a fan of the show, listener to the show, I think we just hit congratulations. I don't know, did we just hit 1 million
Oh
already?
shit, yeah, you're right. Honestly, I was supposed to do a thank you thing for that today, and I never got time to. So I'll do it now. So we'll have it on the show somewhere, and I'll probably do another in-person one because the algorithm told me that I need to do more personal videos to help get
Okay.
us over in the
So
algorithm. Yes, what Bern is alluding to is that the Working Perspectives podcast has passed 1 million views on our YouTube channel, link in the description. Which, I mean, honestly, man, what a time. What a time. We passed it over the weekend. We passed it on Sunday. So it was July 28th of 2024. We went over 1 million views. We had a couple videos, we had a short that did like 5K that kind of like put us over. So, but yeah, dude, honestly, I mean, I think back of like, if you think of like our first view and our 1 millionth view, just all the different looks that the show has had. Short story is everyone that's supported the show and subscribed and has followed along, like this has been, this is our dream, man. Like we want to do this. This is what we want to do for the rest of our lives. We're at like 3,300 followers on YouTube. We're at, probably like 30, around the same on Instagram and, on Twitter we have some more. But either way, like this is our dream and this is something we want to be able to eventually have a second income for everybody and do and just expand and be able to put more back into this show. And we can't thank everyone enough for just how incredible they are and just all the support and all the views and everything like that. It's been incredible. Bern.
Yeah, I was just trying to avoid calling my wife stubborn, but I can't push it off any further. Yeah,
Well, my
1
wife's
million
European.
views.
Guess how stubborn my wife is. She refuses to listen to this show.
Now,
So
like
there you go.
refuses to, or is it just not her cup of tea?
Both. One, she used to listen, and then she would come at me with the dumbest shit. Like I remember, I remember this was like one of our yeah. This is stubborn asshole bullshit. She doesn't listen to the show for anything positive. She only listens to be negative, right? She listens to fucking look for stuff that all she wants to do is point out things that could possibly get me canceled, right? For instance, this was one of her complaints. If I'm being over dramatic, please. But this was one of her complaints early on, right? We had talked about when we had Jill Rasick on the show, episode 3, I think, right? She was one of the first 3 episodes, Jill Rasick, right?
Yeah.
It's Shake's wife, so the co-host at the time, Shake. She talked about how she grew up in Silicon Valley, right? And
Hmm.
that her mom worked in the same shopping complex as Bill Gates, and I told that on this show too when
Yeah,
we had
absolutely.
our
Are the nerds.
how about when we asked AI how did nerds become cool. But so I made the joke. I was like, her name was Jill. I was like, man, Jill, had your mom, maybe showed a little skin, you could have been Jill Gates. You know what I mean? Right? Great joke. Great joke.
Perfect show. Yeah,
Right?
great pun.
My wife, we had a meeting after the things aired with our wives, me and Shake, and my wife pointed out that she said you made a joke about Bill Gates. What if Bill Gates would have heard that joke? I was like, he probably would have laughed because it was funny. Like, what are you doing? Like that's the kind of stupid stuff that I have to hear from that stubborn asshole about this show. You know what I mean? To be fair, not all of it's that that vanilla, you know?
She has made some good cuts, is what you're saying in the past.
No,
She's
well,
made some decent suggestions.
you know, it is what it is. Like there's so many that's the one thing too that is society is stubborn is the cancel culture a stubborn asshole, Bern? Is cancel
Yeah, I mean,
culture a stubborn asshole?
you know what? I will say yes. I don't fully believe in cancel culture. I think people get like to clutch their pearls and get real upset for a minute and then immediately forget about whatever the hell it was that was that bothered them. Like people like to make a real big deal about something and then
Yeah.
completely forget that it ever even happened. Um,
Yeah.
which I don't get. It seems like a lot of time and energy spent on like nothing. But yeah, I think on some level, like we talked about like context, you know what I mean? Like if you don't see the context, if you're not willing to take the joke for the sake of the joke or what it's made for, then you can get mad at anything. I mean, you can call holding
Yeah.
on every play, Maddie, if you're looking hard enough.
True, true, very
You
true.
know?
I mean, but the thing I hate about cancel culture is the fear that it instills. Because I've had people on this show, right? Like, I've had people record episodes of this show and then immediately after be like, hey, man, I'm sorry, but you can't air that. And I'm like, why? We did nothing wrong. We didn't curse. Like, everything was good. And they were like, dude, I had no idea that you had porn stars on your show. And I was like, yeah, I've had a lot of them. And he's like, and they were like, yeah, I can't, I work at this place and I can't be associated with that. I was like, dude, I don't think it would ever come to that, but you know, I'm not gonna put anything up that you're not, you know what I mean? Like, I'll get rid of
Right,
it,
right, right.
even though it was a really good show and really informative, and a lot of people were looking forward to it. And honestly, the word of mouth had already sold the episode, but it is what it is. You know what I mean? Like, but that's the kind of fear that cancel culture instills in people that, like, oh man, I'm afraid to lose my job because I'm associated with this person who had these people on his show. Like, like that kind of stuff. That's like cancel culture being a stubborn asshole, you know?
Well, the thing, maybe more interesting to look at there is like there's a difference between being stubborn and sticking to your guns,
Mm.
right? Like, and it's a thin line, right? It can be
Yeah.
a thin line. Um, because we give people a lot of credit who stick to their guns and are like, nope, listen, I think this is the right thing, and I think this is the moral thing, and I don't think I'm doing anything wrong, and I don't think I'm hurting anybody, and therefore I'm not going to change it whether you like it or not. And there's a lot of people who are stubborn asses who confuse being stubborn asses with being stick to their guns. Like, if you're willing to listen to what somebody has to say, take in the pros and the cons, and go, listen, I appreciate what you had to say, but I genuinely did hear you out, but I'm still going to go ahead and do it this way. Like, I don't necessarily think that's being stubborn. For me, stubborn asses are people who don't even like, you open your mouth and you're like, as soon as you start talking, you're like, why am I even wasting my breath? Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what I say. There's no logic or fact that's going to appeal to them. I can try to like kiss their ass a little bit, maybe to convince them, you know what I mean? Because some people respond to that. Some people, like, if you kiss their ass a little bit, all of a sudden they agree with you.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways to manipulate a stubborn person. I guess what I want to know from AI is, are there any actual ways that not to manipulate a stubborn person, but to actually like get through to a stubborn person?
Okay. Well, why don't we get to AI, see what they say. Bern, what do you think AI will tell us? I always ask you because guess what? You're a great guy and you know a lot.
Hey,
And like Dan Cifelli said, you're pretty smart.
thanks, Dan.
Shout out Dan
Appreciate that.
Cifelli.
Shout out Dan.
Fan of
Dan's
the
got
show,
a
listener of the show.
business. Um, I think AI is gonna say, I think AI is gonna say like that you have to get on their good side and that you have to like present a case that can't be denied. Now, I
Hmm.
don't think that necessarily works because we've already talked about one of the hallmarks of stubborn people is they don't listen to logic or reason.
Nope. 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 Nope.
Um, I don't know. I'm interested to see what AI has to say because the only
All
ways I
right.
can think of dealing with stubborn people are manipulative.
All right, Bern. Well, thank you for that. And here we go. This is what AI has to say. So I asked AI, I said, hello, AI, can you please tell me the best way to deal with a person who is behaving like an inconsiderate, stubborn ass? Said it just like that.
Perfect.
And this was AI's response. They said, dealing with an inconsiderate, stubborn person. Dealing with someone who is inconsiderate and stubborn can be challenging, but it's possible to navigate these interactions effectively. Here are some strategies. First one, communication and understanding. They tell us to do some active listening, give them your full attention, and try to understand their perspective. Working perspective. Shout out, fans show, listener show. They also say clear and calm communication. Express your feelings and needs directly without being accusatory. Use I statements to avoid sounding blame. Excellent suggestion. And then
That's
also
actually
set
a good
set
suggestion.
very good suggestion. Set boundaries. Clearly define what behavior is unacceptable and the consequences of continued inconsiderate actions. Wow. Wow. Well, I feel like a child right now because AI just fucking schooled me. You know what I'm saying, babe?
Yeah, that was really that was more insightful than we usually get from AI. I actually feel
Really
like
insightful. Shout out AI, fan of the show, listener to the show.
yeah, I feel pretty dumb right now. Those were pretty
Think
good
about it though.
suggestions.
Like active listening, give them your full attention. Let them, like, I feel like sometimes a stubborn, inconsiderate asshole just wants to be heard. So let them express. And then use I statements to avoid blame. Very good. Yep. And then, yeah, clearly define what they did wrong. Because another thing that'll set off a stubborn asshole is being like, just saying like anything, general thing they did wrong, right? Like you have to be specific. You know what I mean? That is true.
Yeah.
And I think that's true with pretty much anybody,
Yeah, those are I mean, those are suggestions for really effective communication, like,
regardless.
with anyone,
Yeah,
right?
regardless.
Um,
Now,
goddamn.
you
All
want to hear
right,
what else I have to
AI.
say?
Yeah. Now I'm intrigued because that
Now
was
you're
actually pretty
in.
good.
Shout out AI fan of the show, listen to the show. Moving on. AI also says managing your own reactions, emotional regulation, practice mindfulness or deep breathing to manage your own emotions. And then choose your battles. Not every issue is worth a confrontation. Prioritize the most important ones, and then limit exposure. If possible, reduce the interactions with this person. We kind of talked about that a little bit, manage don't lose your shit. That's one thing that a stubborn asshole loves, is getting a rise out of you. Pick your
Mhm.
battles. Not everything's a hill to die on. That's for damn sure. And then, if possible, reduce your interactions with this person. Well, if you're married to him, rest so well there. Ain't that right, Benoit?
That made something about that last statement really just hit me. Like, I remember, I have two younger brothers, and like I decided that, I was pretty stubborn as a kid,
Mm.
especially in my later years, and my mom pretty stubborn as well. And so when I left for school to go away, I grabbed my two little brothers, and the only advice I gave them was like, just pick your battles. Like, I tried to fight every single one.
Yeah,
I lost more than
yeah,
I won. And
sure
looking
did.
back on it now, like, it was exhausting. I did
Yeah,
not need to fight just pick your battles because you're not going to win most of them. Um, that's actually really great advice when dealing with a stubborn person. Like, know when to really put your foot down and be like, listen, I was cool with A, I was cool with B, we let C go. D was all right, but like E, I can't move on. Like this one I have to stand firm on. Damn. AI,
yeah.
pretty helpful actually.
Listen to this, Bern. We have something else. Okay. So AI goes on to say, he talks about seeking external support. If someone is that big of a stubborn asshole, then, you can always reach out to someone for therapy or counseling or things like that. And then, they talk about, keep your mental health in check. If this is, constantly toxic, it can really hurt your mental health. But then they also said this, Bern. They also asked, would you like to try some role playing to practice how to respond to a specific situation? Bern, would you like to do some role playing with AI?
I would be honored. I'd love to do some role playing with AI.
Okay, so we asked AI to do some role playing, and here's how it went. So it asked for a scenario, and we said your wife never cleans up after themselves, leaves dirty dishes in the sink, and gets upset whenever you mention it. So this is the first part of role playing. It's me. I'll play the part of me, and then I'll play the part of my wife. So this is me saying, "Honey, I'm really starting to get tired of cleaning up after you. The sink is piled high with dishes again. It's not fair that I always have to be the one to do it." And then my wife would respond by saying, "You're being dramatic. I'll do it later. Stop nagging." Right? And then I would respond by saying, "Fine." Or I'll respond by saying, "I'm not being dramatic or nagging. I'm simply asking you to clean up after yourself." And then my wife would respond by saying, "Fine, whatever. I'll do it eventually." And then she turns away and starts scrolling on her phone. That's all from AI. Great response. And then I said to AI that I responded by taking her phone and throwing it into the sink with the dirty dishes. AI then says, "I strongly advise against resorting to physical actions. While it might feel satisfying in the moment, it could escalate the situation and lead to more significant problems in your relationship." Not wrong. And they said, instead, let's try a different approach. It says, me saying, "Look, I'm not asking for much, just a little consideration. If you continue to ignore my requests, I'm going to have to consider I'm going to have to start considering other options like hiring someone to clean up after us. And then she'll respond by saying, we can't afford to hire someone to do the dishes. And I say, it's not about the hiring someone. It's about sharing responsibilities and respecting each other. We both live here. We both use the kitchen. It's not fair for me to do everything. I would do the dishes all day, every day if I got paid in beaches. You know what I'm saying?
I would dismantle the dishwasher. I would throw it away. I would find a way to stab it and be like, "Sorry, dishwasher's broken. It's all by hand from here on out."
Yep. Yep. Everyone's going to be doing a lot of handwork right now. Yeah, baby.
Now,
Yeah.
see, I don't in that scenario, is your wife stubborn or was she inconsiderate? I don't know. But I feel like what we did learn there was there were a couple acts in there. You gotta set your boundaries. You gotta be clear and concise,
Mm,
and you gotta pick your battles.
mm. Is the dishes a battle? I don't know. Every day's a
Is it a
battle when
battle
you're
you
married to a European.
is it
Tell you that, buckaroo. But okay, so we talked AI. I honestly, Bern, I might keep the role play in because I mean it's new.
Yeah, listen, I don't think it was bad, and I think AI was actually pretty.
This is the most open AI has been with us. You know,
Yeah,
like
and it really made sense. Like,
we should start asking AI to do role play more. But okay, we are coming towards the top O time. We found out what AI had to say. We found out what we had to say. But we are coming towards the top of time. Benoit, what do you got to say before we get out of here?
helpful. AI helpful today. Like, I actually may have picked up a couple strategies to deal with stubborn assholes. There's no shortage of them. There's no way to avoid them,
Amen
and
to that.
I'm sure some of them are longtime fans of the
Fans of the
show.
show.
Listen to the show.
Yeah.
Here's to
Not
a
Dan
million more,
Cifelli, though.
Manny.
Dude, yep. Speaking of getting 1 million views on our YouTube channel, this has been another episode of the Working Perspectives Podcast presents Ask AI. I'm Matt Lavelle, accompanied by Bern Podcassy. In case you're wondering, you can find all our stuff and all our content on all podcast platforms and YouTube at Work Perspectives Podcast. You can also on Instagram at Work Perspectives Podcast. Join us on Twitter and TikTok at WorkingPPod. And if you'd like to be a guest on the show, you can email us at workperspectives@gmail.com. And you please like and subscribe so we can bring you the sweet, sweet content. Also, if you got a question for AI, let us know in the comments or message us on our Instagram or Twitter or wherever you see us at. We love, love, love to ask AI any questions you might have, and we'll shout you out in the process. But other than that, you guys are awesome. We're awesome. AI is awesome. And we'll catch you next time. Thanks. See you.
Working Perspectives Podcast. Please like and subscribe.